Again, no offense to the gay community, but you were wrong about your gay agenda arguments. You said that there wasn't a gay agenda. Now, 1 in 4 people in Generation Z identify as LGBT. All those people you gave a hard time to, saying there's no gay agenda. So just like you're wrong about the Bible, you're arguing that it doesn't condemn homosexuality. It does. You lied to us as a society. And those lies are connected to the lies that the Boy Scouts, the prisons, the churches tell in regards to the homosexual abuse of little boys. That's a serious thing. As a community, why won't you come out and tell the truth and set things straight? What does that suggest about the difference between being a man, a heterosexual person who's actually a man, and gay people who we can't point to a single example of someone manning up? As they started to change my voice and put red on my lips in my pictures, in my videos. They didn't exactly rally and say, hey, that should stop. That just because you want LGBT culture to spread doesn't mean you should do it in an evil way. Doesn't mean you shouldn't accept that people don't want to do it if they don't want to do it. That's a mature way for a group to proceed. So part of the history of white and Jewish supremacy in America is also LGBT supremacy. And they talk about buck breaking, where they would rape guys in the butt, just like they do in prison, to break them, to break the slaves. Probably the Native Americans too. Certainly they had churches back then that they were forcing them into. And certainly with every race that they got their hands on. Pretty straightforward. Fair enough? Okay. So this part might come as a surprise. Around the time World War II ends, and I'm not going to give you the exact year to give this person some privacy. Around the time World War II ends, my father is born. Let that sink in for a moment. Around the time World War II ends, well before Martin Luther King is assassinated, my father is born. How many other people have fathers? They were older when they were born. They weren't in their 20s. They were in their 30s, maybe in their 40s when they were born. Around the time World War II ends, my father is born. A very important point on the timeline. Another very important point that I forgot to bring up earlier was the Indian Removal Act in 1830. It won't take very long for you to watch a documentary, 5 minutes or so, 8 minutes or so, on YouTube about that. About Andrew Jackson and his betrayal. About John Marshall and his controlled opposition hoax, which goes down in history as if he was actually trying to do the right thing. He wasn't. One thing I know for sure about Western history, if there was a white person in a position of power in the last 500 years plus in Western history, know for sure that they were a bad guy. Know for sure. It's the good cop, bad cop psychology. It's the checkered floor of Freemasonry, where the black stands for Satan and the white stands for Lucifer, that proud, lowly dog that pretends he's a good guy. Know for sure. The Indian Removal Act was challenged in court, and basically, as the story goes, they initially won. But behind their back, a small group of Cherokees, when it comes to the Cherokee Nation, now I don't want to, go over this too much because they're making it harder for me to speak. But in a nutshell, they were betrayed by a small group of people who must have been pressured and coerced by the masses of white people at the time. And they put them on the Trail of Tears, and they must have raped them. But one thing's for sure, history records that a third of them died on the trail. And they were reading some kind of letter or something in the documentary. Again, I can't watch it. You should watch it for yourself. I was reading the annotations, and sometimes they get the words wrong. But they said this person was full of hate, and they wanted to scream and yell. And these things are considered symptoms of mental illness in America. They say you're easily agitated if you don't ride a white goat and take on a trickle-down white supremacy token minority philosophy if you're a minority. Utterly disgusting. A horrible thing to do. And quite often, if you're born in the ghetto, they kill you if they don't like the way you think. They find a way to kill you. They find a way to get your own people to kill you. Red, white, and blue. The Ku Klux Klan, the Crips and the Bloods. The Ku Klux Klan, the Norteños and the Serenos. The Ku Klux Klan, the Gangster Disciples, and the Latin Kings, and so on and so forth. They find a way to kill you. This is part of the horrible story of American history. It also goes along with their Bible. In Isaiah 57, one of the most important chapters in the Bible is Isaiah 57. The first, maybe 6, 7 verses or so, where it says the righteous are taken away and no one takes it to heart. Well, why don't they take it to heart? Because they worship the devil by their actions. By their actions. Forget their dress and their speech and all this. They try to mislead you with that. It's by their actions, first and foremost. No one takes it to heart when people like me die. Attractive women shun me. Do they think Bonnie and Clyde or Romeo and Juliet? Do they think they should stand by the righteous man of God? Or do they act like a dumb bitch? Like a coked up deer in headlights. I don't know what to do, so I'm going to help the devil with my one life to live. Some Minnie Mouse, Babs Bunny bitch shit. That's what that is. So anyway, going back to the timeline. 1950 to 1953, the Korean War. Well, brother, who was right in the war? Nobody. Because they all worship the devil. Communists on one side, capitalist devils on the other. Both Western philosophies from Western fraternities. Marx, Hegel, Engels. It's where they derive their modern communism. Whenever you see Western fraternity philosophy, you know that's the fruit of the devil. How could it not be? According to their own book. Show me a verse in your Bible that says that capitalism and communism aren't of the devil. So the kingdom, and not Western royals. Who worships the devil more than they do? They're up there somewhere. So in 1954, a year after the Korean War is said to have ended, segregation is declared unconstitutional. That's 10 years after World War II is usually cited as ending. So these troops returned home to a segregated America. But did racism end in 1954? Racism no more ended in 1954 than it ended in 1964. And institutional racism, corporate racism, government racism, you name it. No more did it end in 1968 when Martin Luther King was killed. Or in 1991 after the Rodney King riots. No more did it end in 2009 when Obama was elected. Same old devils. Not necessarily every single last white person there ever was, we'll say, but same old devils. Up to their tricks, and their tricks evolve with technology, with more information related to sociology, psychology, psychiatry. Even their therapy adds on to their treachery. Go ahead and open up to the devil. Go ahead and confess in his churches and tell him all your secrets and how you think. Well, you may as well now, right? Because now it's too fucking late. Because your forefathers and mothers kept breeding, knowing that there was no hope. They weren't like my parents, thinking that there's a little bit of hope mixed with their great moral prowess. They brought in the Messiah. So they knew on some level that hope was there partially because of them. Now, I'm not going to speak for them, but I'll say that that is my impression of the situation. And for whatever reason, they kept breeding. And I'm telling you all, Everyone should stop reading. I've been researching this for many years. They took down my first channel, but you can tell by the way I look and what I had in the background and everything that the first video was from 2009. Plus I have a screenshot of the date of the original video. I had the presence of mind to say, hey, they're going to try to take down that channel. So let's see, it's August 31st, 2009. Illuminati Part 1. And yes, the Illuminati was an actual secret society that has to do with the fundamentals of Freemasonry. The Age of Enlightenment, which is a reflection of the initial principles in which Freemasonry was founded on. Mainstream history. Weishaupt and the Age of Enlightenment, an Enlightenment era secret society that I believe in Russia at one point was outlawed. If it's not something important to explore, then why did the Russian government feel the need to outlaw it if there was nothing there to see? Why do all these Protestants accuse the Catholic Church of this, that, and the other thing when Weishaupt was a Jesuit professor? There's no other way to look at it. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence that people who act like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory, are stupid as fucking shit. Whether they actually think that dumb shit or not. There are countless secret societies in Western history, and they almost always play a very important role in the events that occur. The Age of Enlightenment itself is credited partially to Masonic lodges. Mainstream history. All the presidents were Masons. Can you imagine if black people were in a social club and they're running things in a way that's unfair? And people are like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory that they're in some kind of social clubs together. Fucking retarded. And then one of them gets assassinated talking about secret oaths, secret meetings, secret proceedings, and secret societies. And they say, well, that doesn't matter either. Fucking retarded. Dumb. Being delusional is ignoring the overwhelming amount of evidence that something is true and believing something to the contrary. And as with propaganda, they never expect you to believe propaganda in its presented form. But they do expect you to take the broad path and do the responses that you see in society. Everyone knows that's not true, and they go on to do some dumb shit and conform anyway. Think about it.